it's Lisa. I'm back, and we are continuing on with the male reproductive system. And this time, we're going to talk a little bit about hormones, and then some of the changes they can affect, especially during the life process. So puberty, aging, etc., good stuff like that. Puberty, hormonal control, and climacteric. The reproductive system is like not something that we go into right away. So humans have this really long period of time, right? So like birth. And then puberty kind of starts, and there's like this early adulthood, and then there's like this point where like the brain is finishing attaching up the frontal lobes, right? So here's like 0, here's like maybe, I don't know, 13-ish till maybe, it's in our culture we tend to like benchmark of 18 years old and then about 25. So for the most part we have like this dormant time, okay? And then we have puberty, and then that kind of ends around 18. So you're biologically, reproductively, um, I don't want to say an adult, but like almost can finish with development before your brain actually attaches all of its components completely. So that's like a 7-year stretch. So that's just something to keep in mind. Anyway, so 10 to 12 years in most boys. We're seeing a reduction in age. Actually, like about 100 years ago was between, I believe it was like 16 to 18 years old in some girls. So it's much, much younger now. So we don't really know why that's happening, but we do know what that it is. We have a surge of pituitary gonadotrophins that awaken in the reproductive system, and it's leading to the onset of puberty. In adolescence, this period is from the onset of gonadotrophin secretion and reproductive development when a person attains the full adult like height. I mean, basically, you're gonna stop growing right around here, right? You don't have to buy any more sizes of shoes up. Puberty is the first few years of adolescence until the first menstrual period in girls, or to the first ejaculation of viable sperm in boys. So for boys, we are starting to see it around 14 and girls 12. So it's like significantly younger than our previous generations. Testes are secreting testosterone in the first, trimester, like lightly in the first trimester, like towards the end of it, of fetal development. And the levels are about as high as they are in mid-puberty. So it ebbs and it flows, but it can get pretty fire up there early on. The testes become dormant until puberty, mostly, yeah, from puberty through adulthood. Reproductive function is regulated by hormonal links in the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the gonads all together. Hypothalamus matures and it starts producing this thing called GnRH. So it's gonadotrophin, like releasing hormone. Okay. And so GnRH stimulate anterior pituitary cells. Remember, there's like an anterior pituitary and a posterior pituitary, and they each do different things in the brain, in the cranium. Sorry. Um, Anterior pituitary cells, and these are referred to as the gonadotrophic cells because they are releasing gonadotrophin, stimulating hormone. And they also are going to secrete a few things. So one is follicle stimulating hormones, so FHS. So the nurse cells are going to start secreting antigen binding protein that is going to bind testosterone, and so it's going to keep it in the seminiferous tubule nursery lumen. It's going to wake up the ability to produce sperm, so spermatogenesis. Also LH, which is luteinizing hormone, which is also called interstitial cell stimulating hormone, ICSH, which is going to stimulate endocrine cells to start producing more testosterone, right? So we can have more physical changes throughout the body as well as sperm production. During puberty, the growth of the sex organs, so penis, testes, scrotum, ducts, the glands, everything is going to kind of start taking off and working towards maturity. Testosterone stimulates that generalized body growth altogether. So height, muscle mass, all that. Limbs going longer, muscle mass is increasing. The larynx enlarges, giving the voice a deepening. Erythropoiesis, meaning like the stimulation of red blood cells to be born from the marrow. Basal metabolic rate's also going to change as well, and an increase in appetite, gonna get hungry, right? Because they're making all kinds of new cells and new things every single day. The emergence of pubic hair and armpit hair, as well as some facial hair, begins to develop in a response to dihydrotestosterone, so DHT. So that's like kind of making those accessory structures. Also, scent and sebaceous glands so waxy oil glands are going to begin to develop and sometimes have a hard time finding that happy medium. The beginning of the libido happens at this point, and sperm production begins to, be produced. Once into adulthood, which means reproductive adulthood. So again, like maybe around 18, depends. 25 is when your brain's all put together. Remember, that is like 7 years gap. Testosterone sustains the productive tract, sperm production as well as libido. Inhibin, like inhibit, right? Inhibin from nerve cells is going to inhibit or suppress follicle stimulating hormone output from the pituitary gland. Tell you to be quiet, no more of that. We're all done. It's going to reduce the sperm production without reducing luteinizing hormone and testosterone secretion, right? So then we just kind of like, oh, all right, we're going to slow down. We've reached where we need to reach. Let's balance out and just kind of maintain. We're going to maintain. Okay. So there's a lot of hormonal relationships. So this is like, here's the brain, right? Here's the cranium is what I should say. Here's some eyes and a happy face. Like a nose. Okay, so anyway, just so you kind of get an idea of where this stuff is located referentially. So we have these feedback loops that would start with something like follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, communicating to the nerve cells, as well as the interstitial cells in the testes. So these are going to stimulate the production of sperm and development as well into puberty, thusly upping testosterone production, which does this interesting thing. So this increase in testosterone is going to feed back into the hypothalamus, which is going to then kind of regulate, how much gonadotrophin maybe we're going to be releasing to the pituitary gland and luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone as a result being produced. And it kind of like keeps it in balance, keeps it in check. Says, okay, I'm getting enough. Okay, I'm not getting enough. And then it stimulates like in that feedback loop. Hey, can you tell someone so to produce more testosterone or to slow it down, right? So that's what that means. Right. Furthermore, right, nerve cells, once they kind of like get enough of that follicle stimulating hormone or like maybe producing inhibin, and that's going to kind of feed back down on that follicle stimulating hormone cycle, just kind of turning down the volume on that bad boy. Yeah. Really quickly too, which is nice. It's got like this like intersection prior to pituitary, which is super clever, I think. Okay, aging and sexual function. So testosterone secretion declines with age. So like your peak secretion, that's a lot, age 20. And so by the time you're age 80, it's going to be down to 1/5 of what it was. So which is probably fine. That I mean, humans actually live like a really long lifespan. So it's there, but it's reduced. And so it changes things like muscle mass, for example, and a handful of other issues. Um, Decline in the number and activity of interstitial endocrine cells basically all kind of gives them down to andropause, which is the male climacteric. So essentially kind of like a menopause for males in a way. Not entirely the same thing, but has some aging effects, right, as a result of these hormonal abundance changes. So it's declining reproductive function and may be first seen in the early 50s. Sperm cells are going to decline. But the thing about it is men can still father way into old age, way into old age. Age-related drop in testosterone and inhibin triggers a rise in follicle stimulating as well as luteinizing hormone. And although most men don't really notice this, some will experience um, some of these like hot flashes, mood changes, right? Things that you would expect from menopause. Uh, I don't know what this is because I didn't write this book and I'm not I studied a lot of things, but I didn't, study this in grad school. Illusions of suffocation. Now that is terrifying. So if that is something that's happening, and it might need some kind of external like treatment, please get it. Erectile dysfunction, which results in impotence, is the inability to produce or maintain an erection sufficient for successful intercourse. It increases with age. So 20% of men in the 60s, 50% in the 80s. So that can be kind of something that's very, very physical, very psychological, and relatively traumatic to individuals. So it's something to be talked about with doctors. Right. I think that's kind of it skis for that one. Yeah. All right. So I hope that was super helpful, and I hope you're out there somewhere. Have a great day. Okay. Goodbye.